Dear Mary, hello friend, how are you? I'm sorry this took so long to get out, but you know how I am. The slightest whiff of inconvenience and I completely shut down. And that's where I've been. It's always been too loud, or the boys have had too much to do, or I've been too tired. And here we are, months later. Don't hold it against me. I mean, I know you won't, but I still feel the need to apologize. And I hope you're ready to talk your knit with me.
Hey, hi, hello, how are you? Welcome to episode 2 of the Talk Your Knit podcast. I am DeeDee, one half of this podcast correspondence with my best friend Mary, and I'm so glad you're here to talk your knit with me. Today we are going through my makes, all the things that I have my finished objects since the last podcast episode. We're going to go into my current works in progress, my whips, and then my topic du jour is my 2022 knitting plans, and specifically my Ravelry challenge plans. So that's what we're going to do today. I do want to apologize first for how long this episode took to get out. I had said at the end of the last podcast episode that I wanted these to be monthly, and it turns out, surprisingly, that it is hard to find a couple of quiet hours during the day when you're a stay-at-home mom. Wild, right? Who'da thunk it? But I don't really have the capability of filming at night. Like, I don't have lighting capability and such. So I really need it to be daytime when I'm filming, and it's just hard to find time for yourself to do something like this. Something that's kind of time and attention intensive like this. So, like I said, I apologize if this episode is so late. I hope to be more consistent in the future, but I appreciate you coming back, even if the episodes are not as regular as I would want them to be. So, on that note, let's move into finished objects. And the first finished object I have was a whip in the last podcast episode, but it is finished now. This is the Joni boat neck from Poison Girls. I called it Joni in Prithian because I used the Red Door Fiber Studios Akatar Collection Tonal Mini Skein set and an additional, An additional full skein of, was it Thought for Thought? I think it's Thought for Thought. This really light gray white. And this is what I came up with. So yeah, it's rainbows. I mean, if you've been around for a minute, if you were here for the last episode, you know I'm a basic rainbow loving lady, and I'm never gonna say no to rainbows. And I really like this. I deviated from the pattern extensively because I used mini skeins and I was running out of yarn. Yeah. I'm really bad about underestimating how much yarn I need. So I ran out of this. I ran out of all the mini skeins. I just knit until I ran out of yarn, and it turned out to be a little smaller, not as long. Like, obviously the sleeves, the what is the word? Ribbing. The ribbing on the sleeves isn't as long. I have these blocks of color that are different than what the pattern calls for. My stripes are different than what the pattern calls for. However, I really like it. I think it turned out really nice. like, I really like how it looks. I think it looks really nice. The fit is atrocious. I somehow this bottom is too tight, and where it sits, it's right under like the poochie part. I don't know how else to say that. Like the protuberance of my belly. So it kind of just cups my belly fat. And I don't think that's a good look for me. So that makes me very self-conscious. And my boat neck is a super wide, it's a yacht neck. This is a sailing ship width neck. It's just super wide, and it's like past my bra straps wide. So I believe that mistakes were made, or I stretched out the yarn or something. I didn't give her what she needed. So while it is complete and I love the look of the project, it's basically unwearable because of how bad it looks on me. So it might be something that I donate. I might try to salvage it, but I haven't worn it other than to take pictures in. And it's not something that I reach for. It's just something that looks pretty in my closet, which is sad because, I mean, the yarn was stupid expensive. And I love Poison Girl patterns, and I was looking forward to making this pattern. So like that's very sad, but everything is not a victory, and it wasn't a failure. It was just not a victory, and that's okay. That happens. Okay. Second is another not a victory, except this one I think is actually a failure. This is the Sweetheart Bomber, also by Poison Girls, also knit in Red Door Fiber Studios. Did I say Red Door Fiber Studios? Akatar collection for Joni and Kristen? I don't know if I did, but Red Door Fiber Studios, Akatar collection. Anyway, also in Red Door Fiber Studios, Akatar collection. Truth Teller and don't make me lie, I can't think of the name of the other color. And also some Knit Picks, Wool of the Andes. No. What is the Knit Picks? It'll be in the show notes. You guys don't do this to me. Oh, I guess I could check Ravelry. Crap. All right, I'm checking Ravelry. Dang it. Oh, it's so hot. Oh, it was so hot. Okay, it was Knit Picks, Wool of the Andes in Cobblestone Heather and Dove Heather. That's the dark and light gray. And then Red Door Fiber Studios Classic Worsted in Shadow Singer and Truth Teller. Cool. So I mentioned in the last podcast episode that I was going to run out of the Red Door Fiber Studios yarn because I ordered worsted when the pattern called for DK. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? So I purchased separately the Wool of the Andes, the Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, to make up when I ran out. So I got through the sleeves, I got through the main body, and then I ended up needing it for the collar, for the button band, and then for the bottom band. Super fine. Also for the pockets. Yeah. So that's fine. Like, that's not a problem. That's perfectly reasonable. However, there's a symbol in the pocket. However, when it was time to pick up the button band along the side, I did this very, very, very wrong. And just so wrong. Such that, like, it's gathered, right? It's like I don't know how I did this. I honestly don't. But this band is too short, so it like ruches this up, so it doesn't lay flat like it's supposed to, and it looks I guess worn, it doesn't look bad, but I know that it's not what it's supposed to look like. So it upsets me. And the pockets are too small. I don't know what I did wrong with the pockets, but the pockets are too small. I like the applied eye cord. I think that's really cool, but I can't even get my hands in the pockets. It's just, this was like an actual failure. This is just, and again, I really love Poison Girl Patterns. I really love Red Door Fiber Studios yarn. I really loved this yarn. I spent a lot of money on it and I wanted it to turn out well, and it didn't. And this was the first thing I was working on this year. And I just, like, I came out of, if you remember in the last podcast episode, I said that I had done the gingerbread sweater and it hadn't turned out well, but I was already knitting this. So I was like, it's fine. I'm already on to the next project. But then this didn't turn out well. And then, well, no, I was knitting this and then I started and finished the Joni boat neck and it didn't turn out well. And then I finished this and it didn't turn out well. And it was just very discouraging. It was a run of not very good projects. And it's like, it can be discouraging. It wasn't nearly as bad as last year. I just kind of kept rolling, even though I've had a lot of disappointments. I've just continued to go. But it was, I was not happy. Just not happy. So, yeah. That's those. And then I signed up to be a test knitter for Mary Gandon of Mary Made That. I test knit for her last year for her, what is it called? Eyelet Stripe hoodie, which you would have seen in the last podcast episode. So I test knit her Eyelet Stripe hoodie, and I love Mary. She's so nice. As I mentioned in the last podcast episode, I really like her and I like her designs. So when she put out a hat pattern, I really wanted to test knit it. I had bought last year from Melanated Boho Bay. I have bought a skein. I don't know why I almost said skein. I have bought a skein of her. I bought one skein of bulky yarn from her last year from her Sailor Moon collection. It was the Princess Serenity colorway. And I bought it with the intention of knitting a hat with it. And I hadn't found a hat pattern that I like necessarily wanted to knit with, I hadn't found a hat pattern that I wanted to use that yarn to make. So it kind of just been sitting in my stash. And I mean, I hadn't had it for very long. I ordered it earlier in the year and was just kind of sitting on it. And, eventually I'll find a hat pattern that's the right hat pattern and I'll make it fine. And then Mary Made That. I had a test knitter call for her Merkle hat. And it was just, perfect timing that I had a skein of yarn for a hat, and she needed test knitters for her hat. So I applied, and she picked me, and I did knit her Merkle hat. And I called it the Pretty Guardian Sailor Merkle. And it's because it's the Princess Serenity and Sailor Moon, all that situation. And I really like the hat. It has a very interesting stitch on it. And it was super quick. I knit it in a single day. It's knit on chunky needles. It's super chunky yarn. And what's better than that? Like a quick, satisfying project that you can just knock out. It comes with the option for a pom-pom. I made the pom-pom. I didn't stick the pom-pom on. And then I got the suggestion from someone on Instagram to put the pom-pom on a button. And then you can make the pom-pom removable. So that's what I'm going to do within the pom-pom here soon. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. And I don't have it to show you, but I took lots of pictures of it. So you will be seeing all of the pictures. And I'm a big fan of my pretty guardian Sailor Merkle hat. And I mean, getting to knit for Mary again was lovely. So Mary made that, not the Mary that I talk about as my other half in this podcast. Just to clarify, my Mary is not Mary Gannon. However, Mary Gannon is lovely, and you should follow her on Instagram, and you should buy her patterns if you're into that sort of thing. Okay. What? Oh, okay. Goodness. Sorry. I will get into what this is when we talk about whips, but I do have one more finished object that I want to tell you about, and that is this bad boy that I am wearing right now. Hold on, let me shake it out for you. Are you getting the full effect of this? I hope you are. I hope you're seeing the bobbles and the gradients and the entirety of the situation here. Yes, it's lovely. I do love her. This is the Napa sweater by Nicole Knits. Her name is Nicole, and I test knit this for her, and I love it. So this is the Napa sweater. She called it that because wine and grapes in Napa. And in my head, because the test knit ended in early April, in my head, I thought it would make a great Easter sweater. And I had this yarn in my stash from when I knit Master's tummy blanket. His baby blanket, his blanket that I knit while he was in my tummy, his tummy blanket. I had this yarn from then, and it was the right weight for the pattern, and I thought it would be really cool to do an Easter sweater, and the bobbles could be little Easter eggs, and I could do a gradient of these pastel colors from the pink to the green, and yeah. So I took Nicole's pattern, and I figured out how many stitches or how many rounds needed to go before I changed colors, and I figured out how I wanted the gradient pattern to be, and then I just made it, and I love it. Oh my goodness, it was a bear weaving in all the ends, and I didn't even try to catch the floats for the bobbles. There's just like strands, like these super long, like 8 stitch wide strands of white yarn on the inside that I just catch my fingers on every time I put the sweater on, and I don't care. I love it. I think it looks so nice. I think it's so just pretty and soft, because this is baby yarn. Like it's acrylic yarn, but it's intended for baby blankets. So like it's very soft and it's just nice. I just like it. If you remember, I mentioned that I had a skein of white acrylic yarn that had kind of been getting used to fill in for projects across all of last year, and I was like, I'm just gonna have to keep this in the stash. Well, it shows up again in this. The bobbles, this last row of bobbles is that white. It's not the same as because the other bobbles are off white. All these up here and all of these on this sleeve are off white. And it's the same yarn which is it's not Lion Brand. Hold on. Let me check Ravelry. It is the Bernat Softy Baby Solid in antique white. And then I just have this like random guy. I don't know how he got here. I don't know who he is. He just is. So I just have this one row of white, and I used mint, pale blue, pink, and soft light. So mint, pale blue, lilac and pink, or soft lilac. Mint, pale blue, soft lilac, and pink. And then antique white for the boggles. It turned out so nice and it knit up so quickly. And I've done a lot more heavyweight projects this year, like heavyweight yarn projects this year. So like this is this DK or I think this might be worsted. We are knit Aran. So the pattern calls for Aran weight. So yeah, this is Aran weight. That's worsted. The Merkle hat was bulky, and the Jody boat neck is the only fingering weight project that I have finished so far this year. Not the only fingering weight project that I am working on, but the only one that I have finished, which is interesting because I had been thinking myself after last year a fingering weight fan. Like I thought that fingering weight projects were my preference after last year because I did gravitate to them and like made them pretty much most of my projects, if not all of my projects last year, were fingering weight projects. So I was like, oh, I like fingering weight projects. That's what I'm into. But this year I'm doing something different. And this year I'm doing this thing where I am finishing one project before starting the next one, which is wild because I've never been a monogamous knitter. I never thought I would be a monogamous knitter. And it's not an aspiration of mine to be a monogamous knitter. Not that I have any problem with it. It's just like I feel like I work better when I can put something down and pick something else up. Like I can have options. Because then I don't feel I feel as if I'm working on one project exclusively, then I have to finish that thing before I can move on to something else, and then I can get dogmatic about it, and it stops being fun and it starts becoming a chore. And I mean, I definitely don't want knitting to become a chore because it's kind of my only outlet. I mean, I sew, but like even sewing kind of feels like work because I'm trying to produce content. So knitting is, I am producing content, but I can only produce content if I knit something, as opposed to sewing. I plan sewing projects with the intention of them being content. With the knitting, it's whatever I make is the content that I will put out, as opposed to, there's this thing, like this TV show is coming out, so let's make a costume that coincides with that, put that out. Or, there's an event coming up, let's make a garment that goes with that event, put that out as content. It's less pressure, I guess. But I always thought that I would be the type of knitter that would knit a lot of things all the time so that I can be free to pick up and put down as I go. But I found this year that I've been operating much more monogamously with my knitting, which is interesting. I don't know if it'll stick, but it's what I've been doing lately. Okay, so I have one more finished object that I don't have to show you because it's currently soaking and prepared to be blocked. But I will, again, have pictures. There won't be any worn pictures because this is not for me. This was actually a commission. One of my sister's friends reached out to me and she said that she wanted a crocheted romper. And I told her, I don't crochet, but I can knit you something if that's okay. And she's like, sure, I can't tell the difference. And I was like, cool, that's fine. My feelings aren't hurt or anything. But yeah, so I got a pattern. I got the 9 to 5 bodysuit pattern. Is that what it's called? Let me not tell a lie. It is it in my Ravelry queue? Yes, okay. The 9 to 5 bodysuit by Mezzo Makes. on Ravelry Instagram. I will put all the information in the description and in the show notes. I took that pattern as the starting point, and that is a V-neck bodysuit with a snap opening at the crotch, and I took that pattern and I did a little hacking to make it into a romper. So I added legs, basically, and because the original design has the snap opening at the crotch, that's like how you get in and out of it. And with the romper, you can't get in and out of the crotch, obviously. So did a I did an opening in the back. Basically, I knit it. So the top, because it's a V-neck, the top is knit across, and you do increases so that it'll start this way and get together. And what I did was, what the place that would be the back, I just left really long tails in between. And then once I was done knitting, I cut those. I weaved in the ends, and then I did an applied I-cord on top of it to keep that all encased. I guess I could have steeked it, but I don't have that kind of confidence. And since I was being paid to make this thing, I didn't want to waste any of this woman's yarn that she purchased. And I didn't want to take more time than I was already taking trying to learn how to steek. That just did not appeal. But I think it turned out really cool. The brief was jewel tones and romper. Jewel toned romper. And I think I made that happen. It was my idea to use the yarn with the stellina. I thought that was so cool and just really interesting. I had also wanted to use a yarn with a sequin, but the client didn't much care for that. And I mean, that's her choice. Sequins are not for everyone. So I just did the yarn with the stellina and the main color. And what I did was I bought 2 skeins of the yarn with the stellina and 1 skein of the main yarn. The main yarn had like 500 yards on it. The 2 skeins with the stellina had like 200, 300 on each. And what I did was I started with one of the ones with stellina, and then I alternated every 2 rows with like stellina A and then main color, and then stellina B and then main color, and then stellina A, main color, and back and forth until I got to the end, basically. And I could have knit the top. I could have, like, up into it, joining around. I could have knit it in 2 pieces, but I wanted to keep the yarn consistent because it was self-striping yarn. I wanted the color to be the same going down. My one regret is the project meets in the center front, like it's joined in the round in the center front. And because I was alternating skeins of yarn, there's that jog in like where the colors meet. So it's like shifted off. So it's not perfect around. And I know that you can do something to make that not be a thing. But again, I don't know how. This was a commission, and I didn't want to experiment with someone else's money and on someone else's time. And when I asked, because the client said she wanted it to be a surprise, so I sent my sister, who is the client's friend, pictures of the finished garment, once I got through the body. And I was like, would she be okay with this? Is this going to bother her? Jasmine said no. Jasmine said it was fine. So I am going to trust that my sister knows her friend and hope that she likes it, because I really like it. And I kind of want to make one for myself a lot. I would probably make my. I was gonna say I'll probably make mine out of wool. That's a lie. I'm probably going to go to Lion Brand and buy the exact same yarns that I used for hers to make mine. No, like, ask no questions. I'll tell no lies. I want the exact same thing. And I just think it turned out so nice. And the yarn feels nice, even for being acrylic. And I'm very happy with it. And yeah, it's very encouraging as someone who makes to like have another, like an outside person, affirm your making. And I know that like it's bad to look for outside affirmation and you should be able to pull from like within and stuff like that. But like sometimes you just want somebody to look at something you made and say, that's cool. And I mean, I got that. And I used to really want to be a maker full time. Like, I really wanted to do that as a job. Like, I wanted to sew and sell the things that I sewed. And that didn't work out for me. But like, it reignited that old passion of like, oh, I could do this for a career. I could knit and make for a career. I mean, obviously, I'm a stay-at-home mom. But like, I also went to law school, so at some point I'm gonna have to lawyer. So I don't think I will ever get to make as a career, but it was really nice to like get that feeling. But anyway, long story long. Those are my makes since the last time we talked, so a little over a month, like 2 months. However long it's been. Like a month and a half, 2 months, whatever. That's all that I've made since. So, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk whips. The first whip that I will talk about is the thing in my hand. So, Mr. and I are huge, wild, unbridled nerds. Okay? We were the anime kids that Naruto ran in middle school. We're actually, in the comic books, we're the full cosplay at comic convention nerds, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. I know you thought that I was some cool and mysterious femme fatale hot girl. I am not. I'm a nerd, and that's okay with me. But we LARP, and we recently found a LARP group in our city that meets in a park that's not too far from us, like monthly for a 3-night game. And I have been encouraging Lorenzo to go. We went, the both of us, in March. My mom came and kept the boys so we could go. And he's going to go again in May. And part of his character is that his backstory is he's a dragon. And so I found this image on Pinterest of a knit dragon scale sleeve. And I was like, I could definitely do that. And so I sent him the picture and I was like, bro, check this out. I could definitely do this. And like, I showed him that picture and he was like, let's do that. So, because our original plan had been to make him real leather armor, like make him cosplay armor from real leather. And I mean, if you've ever bought an actual leather item or ever purchased real leather, you know that it is god awful expensive. He has at present some faux leather armor, and I don't think it's tacked out enough. It just doesn't give me that feeling. And I know it's LARP, and I know it's fantasy, like you're playing pretend, but it doesn't give me that feeling. And so it's not what I want for him. I want him to have full leather armor. And then when he saw the dragon scale sleeve, he was like, no, I want that. So it went from full leather armor to full leather armor to full hand knit dragon scale armor. And that's where we are now. So his character is going to be getting stronger periodically, like XP leveling up and that. So he will need he will need new armor, like new pieces as he goes. But this is the first piece. This is going to be his right arm. It's going to be his sword arm. And I'm hoping to have it done before the game in the middle of May. It's like May the 14th. So I'm about to the elbow. It's coming along. But it is going to go all the way up to his shoulder. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to attach it to his body, like keep it attached to his body once I get it up to the shoulder. But that's a question for later, DeeDee, because today DeeDee is just trying to get the dang thing knit. So yeah, it's about elbow length at present. I think it looks really cool. I think it'll look super cool in his sword hand, like when he's coming over the hill in the battle arena or something, or in a boss fight on a Saturday night. I think it's gonna look awesome. Also, it sounds so cool. Like you're gonna be able to hear him coming. And that's just so cool to me. Again, super duper over the top nerdy, but like it brings me joy. And I'm self-drafting the pattern. I knit a swatch with some scales, and the yarn that I'm using, it's just a dark gray, a very dark gunmetal gray yarn that I had in my stash. I don't know where it's from. I don't know who it's by, but it was in my stash from, I think, a hat that I tried to knit him a few years ago that was way too small. So I'm using that, and I knit a swatch, use the swatch to figure out gauge, and then use the gauge to transfer his actual body measurements to a pattern. And it's working out perfectly, actually. Very surprised about that because I've never been able to translate something from measurements to stitches using gauge. Very encouraging. And I hope he likes it because I like it. If he doesn't like it, I'm going to take it, keep it for myself. And it was funny because the boys asked for me to knit them their own dragon sleeves after they saw Papa's. So, like, the boys being my children asked me to make them their own dragon sleeves after they saw their dads. So, that was fun. My second whip is... Are you under the table? It's really great if you were under the table. Yeah, she is under it. There she is. Okay. This is going to be Amy's disco top. I will obviously put everything in the description, or I will link the show notes description. This is going to be Amy's disco top when it's finished. This is Hope Knit Yarn Banana Lights on her fingering base, the Jimmy. I think it might be Jimmy fingering. I don't. Let me check Ravelry. Yeah, this is on her Jimmy sock. Okay, so this is Hope Knit Yarn Banana Lights on Jimmy sock. This is going to be Amy's disco top by Born and Raised Knits. When did I start this? I started this on the 15th of March, and then it kind of took a back seat because I was working on the Merkle hat and then the Napa sweater. So I haven't been, like I said, I've been monogamous knitting. So when I picked those up, I put this down. And I really want to have this done by the end of June for a trip that we're taking. And I think it's going to be super cool. The Amy's disco top is like a little cropped, like not a milkmaid top, but like it's kind of a cropped milkmaid top thing. I am giving mine more of a band. Like I knit a longer bottom band than the pattern called for because I am very self-conscious about my midriff, and I did not want my midriff to show, if at all possible, because that's not something that I'm here for. But yeah, like it's not a bad thing. It's just not something that I want to do for me. I am grading between sizes. So my waist measurement, my waist measurement doesn't correlate with the pattern, my waist measurement and bust measurement do not correlate to a waist measurement and bust measurement in the pattern. Like my waist measurement falls in one size, but my bust measurement falls in a smaller size. So I cast on the number of stitches. What on earth is mouth? I cast on the number of stitches for the larger size so that it would fit around my waist. And then in the increasing section, I am just going to increase to the number of stitches I need for my bust measurement and not to the number of stitches that the pattern calls for the size that I cast on for the waist measurement. I hope that makes sense. I'm doing a size like a large waist and a medium bust. So I'm going to just do fewer increases so that I can get the right bust measurement. So yeah, but like I said, I don't need this till the end of June. It's not a priority. It's not at the top of my list right now. And it's a simple enough top that like if I have to knit it while I'm on the trip, I'll be okay with that. I think it would be fun, like to have a project to knit while I'm on the trip. So I'm not worried about that, but I do like it. And yellow is my favorite color. So getting to knit with something yellow is always I think this is the first like all yellow project I've ever done. Anyway, I love yellow and I love Hope Knit Yarn. I think this color is available in her shop right now. So I had mentioned in the last podcast episode that I purchased Banana Lights, Cool Mint Pop, and Raspberry Muse, and that Banana Lights was the only one that I still saw in her shop. Turns out she was just like, she just let it go out of the shop when it sold out because she was introducing like new seasonal colors. And then when spring came around, which is when she released this last year, she re-released it for spring. So if this is something that you want, it is like this yarn is the color that you want. It is currently available in Hope Knit Yarn's shop, and all of the links will be available in the show notes. Love this. And this is only going to take 2 skeins of yarn. I'm alternating 2 skeins of her yarn. This is only going to take 2 skeins, and then I can what am I thinking of? I have a 3rd skein. Sorry, that's what it was. The 3rd skein. I'll have a 3rd skein to do something else with, which is exciting. Okay, that's it. So is there one more? Yes. Okay, there is one more whip that I will mention, but I cannot. Will it be? No, it won't be out by the time this episode is up. So I cannot give you too much information. And don't hate me, but my other whip is a test knit for the Fossil Frenzy Tee. And I will put the designer's name, or I could just go to. No, I'm not. I'm not going to give you information that you do not get to have. The Fossil Frenzy Tee. It is well, I guess I could show you her pictures. Like that's not cheating. Okay, I will show you her pictures, but I can't give you any more information because the pattern isn't released yet. But the Fossil Frenzy Tee, it's a colorwork. It's a t-shirt with a colorwork band with fossils in it. It's got the circle. It's so cute. Isn't it adorable? It's precious. I am using some Explorer Knits yarn that I purchased last year. It is the colors. Let's check the stash. Oh gosh, I'm woefully unprepared. Please forgive me, guys. Okay, Explorer Knits. Denali sock. Yes, that's what we want. Tied and to the sea. I'm using those two colors to do this. So one is I'm doing the I'm doing the body of the sweater or the body of the t-shirt in the variegated colorway, and then the fossils will be in the tonal colorway. And the reason I'm doing that is because I bought more of the variegated than the tonal, so that's the one I have enough of to do this. But I think it's going to come out really nicely. I made a swatch that I'll put a picture of the swatch. Yeah, okay, I'll put a picture of the swatch because you can't really see much of the pattern in the swatch, so I'll let you see that. I made a swatch and I like it, and I think it's going to turn out nicely. However, my swatch was too big, so I'm going to have to go down a needle size. Here's the thing. That puts me at a size 1 needle, and I am so averse to a size 1 needle. It's like, that's why I haven't knit a pair of socks yet at this point, because teeny tiny needles. Like size 3 is the smallest that I want to go. And this pattern is going to have me out here on a size 1 circular needle. Save me. Save me. But I have to have that done by early June. So I need to get my behind in here for that. Because I forgot have one more test knit that I'm working on. And it is the Love Magic dress for Disco Stitch. And she has the Love Magic sweater, and she extended it into a dress, and then she asked for test knitters, and I was like, please God, let me test knit this, please. And I have to have that done in June also. So that's a much more involved knit, and I am not nearly far enough along on that. So we're gonna just put one in the chat for me. F's in the chat for my fingers. But I'm very excited for both of those test knits. Obviously, this has been the year of the test knit for me. It's only April, and I've done 1, 2, 3, 4 test knits already. Yeah, 4 test knits already, and it's only April. We'll see how deep I get in this thing. Oh no, it's May now. It's May now. Today's the 2nd. Okay, it's the 2nd of May. So, I mean, either way, wildin'. But that is all of my whips so far. We'll see what gets cast on next. But now we can talk about today's topic, which are my 2022 plans, and specifically my Ravelry challenge for the year. So if you are familiar with Ravelry, you will know that there is a challenge tab on your notebook, and basically it's just you. Oh goodness! I hope you can't hear the people outside talking. What it is basically you decide on the number of projects that you think you will be able to finish by the end of the year, and then you put them in your Ravelry queue with deadlines, and that adds them as your challenge. And I always just say 12. I always say I'm going to finish 12 knitting projects a year. Like, that's always my challenge goal. And I've never done it before. Never finished a challenge. Never, ever, ever. It's not discouraging or anything. It's more to encourage me to knit than like it is discouraging if I don't complete the task. It's just like something that I want to do. That if I don't do it, it's fine. And if I do it, it's amazing. So that's where I'm at this year, except this year I'm much further along than I've ever been. I've already completed 4 projects this year. And I mean, it's May, 5 months in, and I've already completed 4 projects. That's awesome. I mean, technically one of the projects was Majesty's tummy blanket, which like the sweethearts, or not the sweetheart, like the gingerbread sweater from last year, just needed like the finishing touch. It just needed its ends weaved in. But still, I did them. So that counts. And I forgot to show you Majesty's tummy blanket. I will put some pictures up. And I will put the information about information about his tummy blanket and Master's tummy blanket in the show notes if you are interested. But yeah, so I've already finished 4 projects towards my 12. These are not projects that are on my challenge list. They're just 4 projects that I completed. And it is the Sailor Merkle, Joni and Prithian, Rysan, Sweetheart Bomber Jacket, and Majesty's Baby Afghan. That's what I finished so far. But those are not what's in my queue. So my plans for this year, specifically my Ravelry challenge plans, are the Garden Gate by Jennifer Snodgrass. I have 3 skeins of Red Door Fiber Studios fingering from her Avatar collection. It's the Feyre colorways. Feyre Darling and something. The other, I can't think of the name of the other one. No, I can't think of the name of the other one, but it's those 2. It's a plummy pink, purple, magenta situation, and not plummy. It's like a berry wine color, and that's the tonal. And then what is the word? The variegated has that berry wine color, and then like green and cream. It's very pretty. You're seeing a picture. But yeah, so I want to do that, and I want to have the body of the sweater will be in the variegated, and then the color work will be the solid, I think. Maybe. And that was supposed to be my January project. But I picked 12 projects because I want to do a project a month. That should have been my January project. It's May, and I don't own that pattern. My second project almost is the Jonquil by Martin Story. And it's like a cropped sweater with like 3/4 length sleeves. And it's got little hearts in the cables, which I think is just adorable. And it was supposed to be my February project because like Valentine's Day, February. How cute is that? I didn't have a yarn picked out for that. And then Melanated Boho Bay did a release for Valentine's Day that had the perfect yarn. And I missed it. And so now I don't know what I'm going to knit that in because I have no idea what yarn to use for that. Then my third project of the year, which would have been my March project, I want to knit the Lily of the Valley blouse. It's this like super light, I think it's knit in mohair, super light sweater with like, what is it called? Lace work in it. And it's like super open and floaty. It's got like big bishopy sleeves. Just perfection. I don't know what yarn I'm going to knit it up in. I only own one mohair or like lace weight yarn. And it's already dedicated to another project. But, I just love the look of that sweater. And the fourth project, the one that should have been for April, is called the Spring Puff by Kristen Brunn. And that is the yarn that's the project that actually has the yarn dedicated for it, I think. Does it? I'm not sure. But Spring Puff is like it's got like these big puff sleeves and it's got a little peplum on it. It's like a fitted pullover. It's just so cute. It's just so cute. It looks like an Easter sweater. It looks like spring. Like it looks like a little cute feminine spring top. And that's like basically my aesthetic. That plus rainbows is my aesthetic. Like, yeah, soft girl. That's my vibe. And then my May project is the Malablusen by Erica Bernstein. It's this like boat neck off the shoulder, big puff sleeve, cropped fitted top. It looks so nice. Like it looks very like cha-cha. like the shoulder work. It looks very rumba. Like it looks like I'm gonna go do some kind of Latin dance in like a dirty dancing, sweaty nightclub. Not dirty dancing because that was like the exact opposite of Latin dancing. But that feeling, like in the old what's it called? Oh goodness, West Side Story, when it's like all the Puerto Ricans are together and they're like dancing, and that's the feeling it gives me. Yeah, and I love it and I want it. And then my June project is the Adagio sweater by Cake Garden. It's this little hooded, cropped, long sleeve sweater. I feel like it'd be the perfect just like summer sweater because it's cropped hoodie. And it's more fitted than the eyelet stripe hoodie. The eyelet stripe hoodie was super oversized. The Adagio hoodie is like smaller, more fitted, not like tight fitting, but like more fitted than how big oversized the eyelet stripe hoodie is, and more cropped. I think it's gonna look super cute with like super high waisted jeans. Ace. Then I have the Ursa sweater, which I really just want to make. After I made the one for Amanda last year, it's been on my mind to make another one. And I already own the yarn. I already own the pattern. I just have to make it. Because I do love the Ursa sweater and I want one for myself. And then for September, I want to knit the Phalo sweater by Fiber Tales. And I just think it's got cables, which is nice. It calls for mohair, which I haven't worked with before. That's why there's so many projects this year that have like mohair or lace weight yarn. I've never worked with it. I really want to try that. And it just looks very classy. And I want to use some yarn that I got from the, what is it? What are the words I'm making up? Bumblebee Acres Farms Bridgerton collection from last year. I want to use some of that yarn because I have a bunch of yarns from that collection. They re-released it actually earlier last month. I have a bunch of yarns from that collection and I love that collection and I love Bridgerton and I want to utilize them for a project because I love having a yarn stash, but I like using my yarn more than I love having a yarn stash. And I think I can justify buying more yarn, like getting my husband to give me money for more yarn, if I start using it. Again, he can see it being used. That might incentivize him to buy me more yarn or let me buy more yarn. Yeah. All right. And then it's the Love Magic sweater by Disco Stitch. But I think I'm going to remove that because I'm knitting the Love Magic dress as a test knit. So I don't really need the Love Magic sweater. But those sleeves, my goodness, they are everything. And I cannot wait to have them. I'm so excited for those sleeves. Oh my goodness. One, two, three. Yeah, I'm very excited about those sleeves existing in my life. And I think it's going to be a fun time. Okay, what's next? Sorry. Getting distracted. After Love Magic, Shakespeare in the Park. So it's a Park Williams pattern called Shakespeare in the Park. And it's got these like big, like the sleeves are fitted till you get to the bottom, but they're like these huge bell sleeves. It's hilarious. And they've got these like white parts in the sleeve. So it kind of looks like Elizabethan like sleeves with like those paned sleeves with like a shirt under it. I'm very excited for that. It just looks so funny. I don't know what yarn I'm going to use for it because like I have no clue. I just don't know. But I want it so badly. I just think it's so funny and cute. So I'm going to have to buy yarn for it. And I don't know where to buy super bulky yarn like the pattern calls for. Except for Melanated Boho Bit, but she doesn't sell much tonal. Most of her stuff has variegation in it. So I have to find somewhere to buy some good, I have to find somewhere to buy some super bulky tonal with solid color yarn, but like I do want to do that. And then I have the Fine Line sweater by Lily Kate France. I love this sweater. I think it looks like the perfect Christmas sweater. I think it looks so just like holiday, and even the one she has as her as a product picture looks like a holiday sweater to me. It's like more blue green than what I want to do. I want to do like a true evergreen forest green, but like that's gonna be the perfect Christmas sweater. Just perfect. I'm so excited. And then the last thing on my list is a twin set. So a twin set is like it's a vintage thing. It's a top, like a shell type top, and then a cardigan over thing, but they match. They have like the same colors and like the same style of knitting, and they're worked up in the same pattern. You know what I mean? Like stitch pattern and stuff like that. And I just think that, like, I'm a vintage gal. I'm into that sort of thing. And I just think it would be amazing to have that. And, like, I think it's one of those things that my wardrobe would benefit from. Yeah. So I really want to do that. I think it would be so much fun and so cute. But I have a pattern in my Ravelry queue. It's the Pastel Twin Set Jumper by Australian Women's Weekly. It's like a vintage pattern with like all the vintageness of it all. So that's going to stink, having to translate the vintage pattern and like find comparable yarn and stuff like that. But I think it'll be worth it just to have like the twin set. I think that'll make it all worth it. Besides that, I mentioned that I have knitting plans besides just my Ravelry queue. And one of the things that I want to knit this year is a bathing suit. Like I said, we have a trip at the end of June, and I really want a hand knit bathing suit to wear on that trip. And not a vintage or not a historical bathing suit. Like, it's not meant to be a costume. I don't want to knit, a Victorian bathing dress or something like that. I want to knit an actual historical, like I want to knit an actual bathing suit, which is part of the reason I knit the 9-to-5 bodysuit, because I wanted to see how hard it would be to knit something like that. And it wasn't hard at all. It was so nice. Like, I know I keep saying that, like, I don't know what I'm saying. Honestly, I don't know what I'm saying. It was not difficult to knit the 9-to-5 bodysuit. I did it fairly quickly over, like, once I figured out all of the math to modify it for what the client wanted and the math that is just required in the pattern. It didn't take me long to, like, get her done. So that was really fun, and I'm excited to do that. And so that is one of my goals this year, is to just knit a bathing suit to take on vacation with me. And yeah, I'm excited about the prospect, basically. Anything else? Any other plans this year? Oh, goodness. I also want to knit, this isn't necessarily like high up on my list, but I do want to knit the cottage core crop. I think it would be the perfect thing to use my Cool Mint Pop yarn on. So that's also on my list. And then I do want to repeat some projects. I want to knit up another version of the summarized top because, oh no, come back. I do want to knit up another version of the summarized top because I have so many plots in my mind for that. I do want to knit up another of these. I have some yarn in my stash right now that would be perfect for this. This being the Napa sweater, and it's wine colored. Mm-hmm. And I do want to do the patchwork bomber jacket. Yeah? The patchwork, I think it's Patchwork Bomber by Mary made that. I think that's also on my list. Because I really want to make that in pink and green. I think it would be so cute. And it's been in my head. And now that I've seen it, I can't get enough of it. Those are my sorority colors. My mother, my youngest sister, and I are all in the same sorority. And I just want that so badly for us as a unit. Okay. Whew. Wow. Okay. Guys, Mary Leisha, I think that's it. Okay. I think I've talked knitting long enough. I think I'm done. I am so grateful for you for being here today to listen to me ramble, wax poetic about my knitting. It's so nice to have an outlet for all of these thoughts and feelings, of which I have many. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a like. You can subscribe to my channel if you want to see more like this from me, and ring the notification bell to be notified every time I post a new video on this channel. If you are a audio only podcast listener via Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, then thank you so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast episode if you enjoyed it to help others like you find me. Yeah. As always, I really appreciate you for engaging with my content, and I want to hear about you and what you're doing. So if you are knitting on anything, if you have any grand plans for this year, if you have a new project or new technique or a new pattern that you're very excited about, let me know in the comments down below. I love adding new things to my Ravelry queue. Give me more. Yeah. So Mary, best friend Mary, not Mary Gannon. What are you working on? What's your big over the top project for the year? I know that you are also test knitting something that I'm test knitting. Mum's the word. So let me know how that's going for you. And yeah, feel free to write me back with what you got going on. If you have any thoughts, feelings, questions, comments, concerns, you can leave them in the comment section down below. Feel free to check the description for the show notes. If you need any further information, there will be blog posts about everything that I have finished over on my blog. That is it for me. Cool. Yeah, thanks again. Bye for now. Mary, write me back soon. I can't wait to hear from you. And until next time, sincerely yours, DeeDee. Bye. P.S. I'm just drinking coffee today, and it's way too hot. But if you have something yummy that you're drinking and you want to share, put it in the comments. Okay, bye for real now.